Our next topic, topic 3, as you see on the slide, is sustainability reporting. We have different acronyms running around across Europe right now. It's CSRD, it's ESG. Basically, it's about sustainability. And next to me is Mr. Christoph Kocher. He is IFRS specialist. We worked with him together in the topic of ESEF very closely. We got to know each other through ESEF. And he is ESG consultant. And he will show us, after a short introduction of mine, he will show us like the framework of ESG, how to report, what to do, and will guide us all, I'm very looking forward to it, guide us through what has to be done in preparation to be ESG ready. We will kick this off. The next slide. So, our agenda is, I will introduce ESG, then Mr. Christoph Kocher will give us an overview. Then I will take over again, talk about some best practice approaches and the services we will provide as the Bundesanzeiger Verlag. So ESG, it's the next reporting standard after ESEF and the digitalization process of the annual reports. We in Europe will be faced with a new challenge in the coming years. It's about sustainability reporting. And with new EU standards for this reporting, this is the next step in digitalization. And I am very, very sure that there will be more coming. There's a framework. There's not actually a real standard yet. It's all going through different stages of development. But we will show you, together with Christoph Kocher, the complexity and quality which has to be reported. It's a new challenge. Many companies are faced with it, and we are very happy if we can help you, guide you a little bit more in preparation towards your reporting. ESG, the acronym stands for Environment, Social and Governance, and it's the way of the European Union to, I mean, at the end, it's about being sustainable as in economic entities, and with, like, he will build the framework of what to do, what to expect, but to give you a short insight on why we as the Bundesanzeiger have had the topic of ESEF and now have the topic of ESG, because from a software standpoint, it's basically like the block tagging, the ESG reporting. It's PDF documents that have different elements regarding sustainability, and they have to be digitalized. It's the same. It's congruent to ESEF and note tagging. At the end, after Christoph Kocher showed us his slides, I will give you a short overview of our services. Mr. Kocher, very proud to have you here. It's your stage. Feel free.
Is that my mic right
Yes,
here?
yes. Go ahead.
Is this turned on? Oh, yeah, it is. All right. Thank you, Tobias, for having me here, for inviting me here. Also, thank you, Thomas, for having me here at the Stock Exchange in Warsaw. What you see on the screen back here is not a PowerPoint presentation, because if you go to a lot of conferences like I do, or online conferences these days, you see a lot of PowerPoint presentations, which is good because it's a very efficient way of presenting your material. I don't like it anymore, I have to say, because I get tired. And so now I try to do this with Miro. This tool is called Miro, if you don't know it yet, and we'll see if it turns out. It might end in catastrophe, then I might just have to do it out of my head. So I came here to Warsaw to talk about sustainability, and in particular about how the future is going to look like in terms of having a sustainability report in electronic format. I think that's really where the focus is today. So we're gonna have a look You see that at the side, on the left side, at the SFDR, we're going to have a look what the regulatory requirements in Europe are right now, okay? And then we're going to ask ourselves, how are we going to transfer this in an electronic format? Parenthesis, XBRL. I'm going to slow down speaking now because I can see that the translator is firing away back there in her cabin. All right, now let's try to move through this board a little bit, and I'm going to use it to provide you the information I'd like to give you. So we're talking about sustainability today. To be, as you mentioned, the E, the S, and the G, and I'm sure by now we're all familiar with this. But what does it mean to us? And why are we so concerned today with sustainability? So we're going to move to the right here. Fabian, I'm going to ask you to move to the right. Thank you. Why are we here? Why are we having this panel? Why don't we all go to the zoo or to the public pool and have fun, right? I'd like to go to the public pool right now or to the zoo. But there must be a reason why we're here. There must be a background, or to put it in the words of the young people today, people born after 2000, not me, obviously, purpose. What's the purpose? Is the business you're doing, is it purposeful? Is the business model of Warsaw Stock Exchange, is it purposeful? I just spoke to Thomas, and I believe it is. And the purpose is not making money, obviously. So that's why we're here, and that's what people think about, and a lot of young people think about. Now, if we move further to the right, Fabian, thank you. I brought you some pictures. These are pictures I just draw from the media, and I called them personal impressions. Fabian, if you take this down a little bit, please. I called it further down, please. If you take it further down, yeah, there it is. I called this personal impressions because this is what you're confronted with. You turn on the TV, the radio, or in social media, right? What we see here on the top left is a little village close to where I live, Tübingen in the south of Germany, and they were flooded. They were heavily flooded, and you see the mayor standing there with a voluntary firefighter, and they have one part water pump. So there was only so much they could do to help people with their flooded houses. These are farmers in China, and unfortunately in the region where they live, they don't have bees anymore, right? So now the farmers have to do the job of the bees themselves. As you can see, they're hanging from the trees. This was a textile factory in Asia, and as it turned out, the building collapsed due to poor maintenance, and as it turned out, they were producing textile for a company in Germany, a large textile company in Germany. So supply chain, anyone, right? If you see these pictures, this is a very famous news anchor in Germany, and you turn on the news TV 8 o'clock at night in Germany, you'll meet him for sure. And every time I see him, this is like how he appears to me personally, because he always has bad news. And so that's my personal impressions, that at some point, living in the year 2022, you gotta ask yourself, is this just me? Or is there a change in this world? What's happening? And what's happening to the world we live in, right? Fabian, if you move further to the right, please. I'm trying to give you some objective evidence, right? This is one chart of a very large and comprehensive study that's called the International Panel on Climate Change. It goes with the acronym IPCC. The heads-up version was published at the end of 2021. In the meantime, they released the full-scale report. It has several hundred pages, and what they do is they collecting evidence if there is actually global warming, and they show the evidence to make it available to the public and to the politicians. This is one charge, only one charge from many. I just took this. I believe it's a very trustworthy source, the IPCC. It's promoted by the United Nations, so I think it's very trustworthy. And what we see here is the green line is the simulated natural only, so solar and volcanic increase in the global surface temperature, right? So this is the past, and this is what they're projecting. Only, so no human interference with the green line. And then the middle one, simulated human and natural, is what they're projecting, the global surface temperature increase projected with the human interference. And then the black one is what they actually observed. So the message is, we're actually worse than we already anticipated, right? So it's bad news again, looking at Klaus Kleber, the famous news anchor. It's bad news again. And so I believe, Fabian, if you go further to the right, looking at the IPCC and other sources, I believe there is a link between the emission of greenhouse gases, such as CO2, and the increase in global surface temperature. There is a link for sure, and you can't avoid it anymore. There's no way of saying, no, this doesn't exist anymore. There was a US president who actually said there is no link, but I think he was wrong, to be honest. Now, if we follow the dotted green line, Fabian, back, this brings us back to the center point of the mirror board, and it says, why? That's why we're here. That's why we're having this panel, right? And being in Warsaw Stock Exchange, green finance is actually at the heart of opening the way to reducing CO2 emissions in Europe massively. That's why it's very thrilling being here. Now, so that's the purpose, right? Now we have the purpose. Maybe we go up and see what we have to report, what we have to do. This is from the IOP conference. I could have taken plenty of other charts. They always tell the same story. It's about the E, the S, and the G, right? Right now, when you look at the public discussion, everybody is obsessed with the ecology aspect about it. So people talk about greenhouse gas emissions and CO2, obviously, for a good reason, because there's way too much for it. And that's like the most crucial thing everybody jumps at right now. But be aware that sustainability comprises way more than just CO2 emission. There's a social aspect to it. I'm just coming from a client, and we are producing a GRI compliant sustainability report. We're going to look at GRI in just a minute, what that is. And so GRI standard compliant sustainability report, and we're trying to produce the gender pay gap. So what they pay for their female employees and their male employees, it's terribly hard to get there. It's terribly hard to get there, believe it or not. Because you have to provide the data not only at the employee level, but at all stages of the hierarchy. Terribly hard to get there. I'm not blaming them. It's not a piece of information that anybody asked for so far. So in their annual report, they have their wages, they have their salary and so on, the remuneration for the boards, they have all that. But now they need a new quality of data, and they just don't have it. That's not related to CO2. That's the social aspect of sustainability. And obviously, once you start reporting about something, and those numbers, they don't look too great, to be honest. Once you start reporting about it, you realize, oop, we might have an issue here. So you turn your attention to the things you talk about. right? So there's always an E, an S, and an G. I took this graphic right here from the IOP conference because it's free to use. You're allowed to use it as long as you provide these resources, which I did, obviously. There's plenty of others, but it's always usually in circles, and there's the E, the S, and the G. So as a company, usually this is one of your starting point where you start to reflect, where do we have influence and what is influencing us as an organization? Are we in the social sphere? Maybe you're a service provider, or is it more leaning towards greenhouse gas emissions? Maybe if you're in the production industry, right? If we go further up, Fabian, please. I draw this line to the Sustainability Development Goals. For those of you who don't know these yet, they refer to as the goals. It's 17 goals that were established by the United Nations, and there's plenty of information out there to inform yourself what these goals are. I gave you the link here. I'm not going to ask Fabian to click on the link. If he would do that, then this would open, and you would have for each and every single of these goals, you'd have plenty of information. They have an app in many languages. There's an app in German. I'm sure there's an app in Polish that gives you information about this. Believe me, it's great fun to sit down with the senior leadership of your organization and reflect these 17 goals, right? And after, say, half a day, you ask everyone to come back and you ask the senior leadership, what's your preferred goal in here? What do you think, what's the influence we could have? What's the impact we could have on one of these goals? Now, good news, no one is able to pursue 17 goals at once. That's just impossible because you can't. So if we go further to the right, don't pursue 17 goals at once, but ask yourself as an organization, what's material for your organization? That's the point, right? So if you are if you're a producing organization, say you're producing steel, you're producing cars, electrical appliances, I don't know, you tell me, then you probably want to reflect about the goal on greenhouse gas emissions. Where does the energy come from? Are we using green energy? And if so, where is it produced? How is it transformed? Are we using our own energy? If you're not in the production facility, but you're a service provider, then greenhouse gas emissions, that's probably not your goal. I just spoke to Thomas before we started the panel, and we said there's so many consultants like myself, right? And me personally, I hardly have any influence on the CO2 emissions of Volkswagen company in Germany. I know that. But here's the point. I'm traveling a lot as a consultant. I'm traveling thousands of miles a year. I came by train, right? I came by train. So still, even as a consultant or a service provider, you can have an influence. If you don't know yet, there's, it's not a shame. You just probably, it's not in your radar yet. But then you should start thinking about it. You better start thinking about it fast. And here's why. I'm going to show you why. If we follow the dotted line, Fabian, if you could follow the dotted line, it brings us back to what is it we are talking about, right? So now we have our purpose, why, and we know what we are talking about. Now, let's go to the left-hand side, Fabian, please. And this is about how. How are we gonna provide the information concerning sustainability, and how are we gonna do this in an electronic format? Now, the regulatory environment in the EU at present is pretty much under the radar or under the hashtag EU Green Deal, right? But there is no single thing as an EU Green Deal. It's like a plethora of different regulations addressing different market participants or elements of the civil society. So Fabian, if you show us the graphic on the left, this is a graphic I produced trying to show what the EU Green Deal actually is. It's very simplified, but I tried to make this as transparent as I could. So the EU says that their Green Deal is an action plan for financing sustainable growth, right? That's maybe a wording that we should keep in mind. So they're trying to direct or redirect capital flows away from traditional industrial elements and into green or economic activities. That's where the EU taxonomy comes into play, and I'm sure you all heard the news, you know, what's actually taxonomy compliant and what's not taxonomy compliant, right? Being in Poland right now, I'm fully aware that producing energy by burning coal is very important to the Polish industry, right? In Germany right now, we have completely different discussions. About 15 years ago, we decided we're going to pull out of nuclear energy and made ourselves completely reliant on gas imports, mainly from Russia. And as we see today, that was a mistake. Is burning gas to produce electricity EU taxonomy compliant? It is. So already at this stage, we see there's a lot of politics involved in here. That's not something that we can change as a company. We just need to be aware of it and we need to be compliant, right? Now, for those of you coming from the ESEF implementation, like myself, this is not the taxonomy we've been using to tag the financial statements. This is the EU taxonomy coming out of the Green Deal. And this is not something that you need to apply it. But in order to apply it and to be EU taxonomy compliant, you need to apply the CSRD, right? And what that is, what the acronym stands for, we're just going to look at in a minute. So the EU taxonomy doesn't provide you but with a uniform classification structure, right? It's like a dictionary, if you want, of activities that are allowed because they are considered by the European Commission. Now, if you want to fulfill this uniform classification, if you want to be on the green list as a reporting entity, maybe listed on Warsaw Stock Exchange, you need to apply the CSRD, right? Here's a list of regulatory standards that you can use in order to be CSRD compliant. Now, the one, if you're a larger entity and you're probably listed, the one you've been using so far is the GRI. That's the set of reporting standards, sustainability reporting standards, that's been promoted by the UN. So right now we're using the GRI standard. In Germany, if you're a smaller entity, maybe you're not listed, and you want a lean sustainability report, you're probably going to use the DNK, that stands for Deutscher Nachhaltigkeitskodex. So that's I think it was introduced in 1998, and it's a very nice tool to start engaging in the sustainability reporting process. But there's also SASB, there's also KPI for ESG, and this all goes in the same direction. And now, obviously, latest news are the European Sustainability Reporting Standards, ESRS, that have been published in the draft version. I think that was 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, right? A good news is, I I put here, is this a new gold standard? Because we don't know yet. Good news is both SASB and GRI are heavily involved with the EISB and the ESSB that are drafting the ESRS. So it's quite obvious that the ESRS are going to have major elements of GRI and SASB. So if you're asking yourself, what do I have to fulfill in future? Look at the GRI and look at the SASB and you'll find the answers. I'm going to provide more details on that just in a little while. Now, the left part of this graphic is CSRD. So we're talking about reporting entities, right? That's the entities that are also obliged to prepare ESEF reports, right? On the right-hand side, we have the SFDR. I have a graphic prepared on the SFDR and the acronym up there. We're going to look at that in a minute. Who is addressed here? It's investment companies, it's financial advisors. So it is the FMPs, the financial market participants. It's not reporting entities, okay? So if you are if you want to issue a bond with an ESG link, right, as a company, then you concern yourself right now with the SFDR because you want to make this bond compliant with the SFDR. In order to be compliant with the SFDR, again, you have to respect the uniform classification coming from the EU taxonomy, right? That's the point. So the EU taxonomy goes two ways. It goes into the CSRD, and it goes through the reporting entities, and it goes the other way into the SFDR on the capital market participants. That's the point. So with this slide, I try to show how all these things are interrelated. There's no way around it. I'm sorry, there's no shortcut around it. I'm sorry to say that. Now, in the end, what the EU Commission says, they want all the European sustainability reports in an electronic format. So we're talking about ESEF again, right? And that's the other reason why we're here. Because after the text blogging, Tobias, you just mentioned, we will be tagging sustainability reports. I can say we will do that because it's pretty much, it's certain, right? So, and we're probably going to be using ESRS as a European entity, right? So that's the situation we have right now. Now, Fabian, if you go to the left, I prepared a little table on the CSRD. There's a lot of data in it. I don't want to bore you with this. So we have the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. I gave you all the data when it was released in April 2021, when it was adopted and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go through all these details. You can look at it on your own. But just one thing, who is CSRD, who needs to fulfill the CSRD requirements on 2 subsequent reporting dates. If you have an annual revenue above 40 million euros, total assets above 20 million euros, an average headcount of 250 full-time employees, and you fulfill two of these elements on 2 subsequent reporting dates, congratulations, you just joined the club for the CSRD compliance, right? The reporting requirements following from the CSRD are quite heavy, I have to say. There's this concept of double materiality that's new to us in Germany, for instance. We didn't have that yet. So what does double materiality mean? You have this inside out and outside in perspective. Give you an example. You're a steel producer, right? So you're consuming a lot of electricity, and then the question is, who does produce that electricity, and by burning what? Is it gas, is it coal? So they want to know from you, what's coming in, and what's the CO2 emissions. And then you turn it around, you go from outside in, say you're producing not only steel, but maybe you're also a chemical company. We have some of those in Germany. And then the question is, the products we are using, what's the impact on the society, or what's the impact on nature? So that you're going like the other way around. And this is what they refer to as double materiality, which is new to us. In Germany, we didn't have that yet. Then obviously the stakeholder analysis and the materiality analysis, very important step at the very beginning of every sustainability report. Stakeholder analysis in simple terms means, besides our shareholders, is there anybody else, any other group of interests that are impacted of what we do, right? I was in a board meeting and I raised exactly that question, and one of the very senior officers of the company told me, no, there's not. There's just stakeholders here. And other interests don't belong here. That was a very short conversation, and they don't prepare any sort of sustainability report yet, which I respect. If they don't want to, they don't have to yet, right? Materiality analysis, very important step in the process. Now we're referring back to the ESG elements and to the 17 goals from the UN. Materiality analysis means, what is important to your organization? Where do you have the biggest impact on one of these goals, right? That's the materiality analysis. Forward-looking information is also new. If you come from the financial reporting hemisphere and you're used to prepare financial reports, that's something you hardly do, maybe in the notes, but not really. That's something you're going to be forced. So they want to know, by 2030, what's the reduction in CO2 emissions your organization will achieve? So they're asking you for very specific goals, and then pain in the neck, the next year, so you're supposed to report if you have reached your target. That can hurt. Intangible elements, I'm going to drop that for now. And then obviously there's going to be an alignment with the SFDR, which is on the right-hand side, and the EU taxonomy, which is at the corner of the picture, and then with ESEF, obviously. So a big piece of regulatory work that's been released, and so as I said, on top of the table, scheduled for late 2023. So that's definitely ahead. If you feel like you fulfill these requirements as an organization, you should get involved, right? Fabian, if we go to the top of the picture, there should be a table for the SFDR as well. If you go up, thank you. So that's pretty much the same format now for the SFDR. The first proposal was in 2019. It's applicable since 10th March 2021. I have a few clients who actually apply the SFDR right now, and I speak to them. I find this very interesting, and they say one of the most important challenges they're facing right now is they're having their revenue streams, and they're disclosing their revenue streams according to their business areas, because that's what they do in their financial reporting. Now, applying the SFDR, they have a new task, that is, they have to disclose their revenue according to business areas that are taxonomy compliant, and then other business areas that are not, right? So it's like a new key, if you want, to present your revenue streams. And that's one of the most biggest challenges if you apply the SFDR. I'm not sure if we're going to spend so much more time on this. Maybe what's also interesting if you're looking at this for the first time. So When they introduced the SFDR, they had like level 1, level 2 approach. Talking about level 1, you're really talking about the single entity that is disclosing information. They are asking you about the FMP policies, identify and prioritize the adverse impact. Adverse impact is a very important element. And then level 2, you're looking at the financial product, right? You're looking at your bond, at the specific bond, and then you need to define these elements on the product level. So that's again, that's more tricky. All right, now if you zoom out, Fabian, and then we'll see if there's anything left. Yeah, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go down here. Digitization, I already mentioned. So according to the European Commission, sustainability reports must be provided in the ESEF format. I already said that. So what we're gonna do, we as the ESEF community, we're gonna recycle our know-how and the lessons learned that Tobias told us about in his presentation to take the sustainability reports and to apply the taxonomy to those reports. The idea is to have a basis to compare all the sustainability reports using the same taxonomy, and then to draw this information and to compare it, right, on an electronic basis, right? Talking about artificial intelligence. We know this concept already from ESEF, financial reporting. The idea of the European Commission is to roll this out into the non-financial area. Make it machine readable, obviously. As of today, I don't know any sustainable report that is machine readable. I believe SASB is the closest to that idea. I'm totally looking forward to see what the European sustainability standards have in stake on that corner. Now, integrated corporate reporting. I was very surprised to hear that Ericsson Tesla from Croatia, the presentation we had before, is actually publishing integrated reports since 1999. I'm definitely going to have a look at that, what the form is and what the reporting standards are. That's like the higher idea of the European Commission, to have an integrated report considering the financial reports we're all familiar with for the last 50 years and the non-financial ESG reports. As of now, I hardly know any entity that is producing that kind of report, right? Now, this is also another concept that's floating around in the accounting area. Controlling as a self-service for senior manager. We spoke about FSDB today, and I think they're really pushing this concept. So the idea is you're having all the data on an electronic basis available, right? And then as a senior manager, you need certain information and you just draw it from your computer, right? And to be able to do that, you need them in an electronic format. If you want to compare that to your competition, you need this in an electronic format. And the idea is to apply this concept to non-financial reports. All right. Now, if we go back to the very center, Fabian, thanks. And then now we're going to go down to the best practice approach. Obviously, right now, we're not applying ESEF yet to ESG reports, but we are already producing a lot of sustainability reports. And there is a best practice in ESG reporting. And I think if you know you're going to have to apply the CSRD, it's very good advice to take a look at the current practice as the best practice that we have today, because I can assure you a lot of that is still going to be there in 2-3 years' time applying the CSRD. So we're having the universal EU standards by year-end 2022, probably applicable 2023. The first drafts have been published already, so the best practices in place. Now look at this, the GRI have been available since 2000. I already told you that this is used by most of the larger corporations. In Germany, we have the DNK, Deutscher Nachhaltigkeitskodex, very nice tool to get involved with the sustainability reporting. You can produce a DNK compliant report within, say, a time frame of 6 to 8 weeks if you have a motivated team behind it. You can do that. And not the worst decision if you want to get involved with sustainability report. And then obviously we're having plenty of industry or other specific or specialized reporting standards that you will apply if you have to. Fabian, if you go further down, I just gave you some examples. We have the GRI, we have the DNK, there's SASB, there's an ISO standard, there's the FSC concerning paper, and so on. There's a greenhouse gas protocol that's only related to CO2 emissions. So we have a plethora of additional reporting standards that you will apply if you have to, right? In addition to GRI or DNK or whatever main standard you're using. So that's kind of what we are working with now, right? And coming from that, Fabian, if you go further down, I can tell you from my professional experience that we already know which reporting components will inevitably become compulsory from 2023. You will for sure report on the gender pay gap, right? That's for sure. You will need a due diligence procedure if you're buying another entity, you will have due diligence procedures in place. Materiality we already talked about. Stakeholder analysis. Annual report, of course. What's your management approach? Management approach is one of the key aspects in a GRI report. So for every material aspect in terms of sustainability that you identified during your materiality analysis, you will write a management approach. For instance, you say, I think we have an issue with energy consumption. Here's my management approach. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, and in 5 years' time, I'm going to have less CO2 emissions, right? Not easy to write, to be honest, because you have to get your head around it. The EU taxonomy is up there, obviously. XBRL is on the other side. Anti-corruption, employee turnover is in every sustainability report, no matter what standard you use. Employee turnover is always there. So right now, we already can tell what's in stake for us from 2023. We don't know the details yet, and the European standards are still in a draft, right? So by year-end 2022, they're gonna apply, and this is for sure gonna be in it. If you go further down, Fabian, I think we have plenty of time. So my advice is don't wait until the reporting standards are finalized, but get started, get involved already, right? Start preparing your internal processes. I really enjoyed the presentation from Ericsson Tesla this morning, where he described how he's now adjusting his financial reporting processes to get the ESEF tagging involved. I really enjoyed that information. That's going to be history repeating for sustainability reports. First question, who's responsible? Is it accounting? Is it controlling? Do you have a head of sustainability? And if you have one, where is he in the hierarchy? Is he reporting to the CEO? Is he reporting to the CFO? Or is he not reporting at all? Or, so there's no easy answer to that. Clear your organization and get your head around who is responsible for this. Resources. I'm sorry to say that, but you're probably going to hire someone who takes care of all these reporting duties, right? Budgeting, obviously. Timing. Oh, there it is. Timing. Do you need external support? Talking about CO2 emissions. I don't know any reporting entity, sustainable reporting entity, that does the CO2 accounting itself. That's usually external people coming in. Build up your know-how in terms of ESEF tagging, because you're gonna be tagging your sustainability report. So don't let this know-how get away from you, and don't get dependent on a third-party provider, because you're gonna be in their hands, right? And I mean, that's not what you wanna do, talking about independence. So that's something you can do tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, first thing, right? Fabian, if you follow the green line, and yeah, here it is. So the advantages of regular sustainability reporting is also obvious. The image improvement you have on that is massive, believe me. A friend of mine in the south of Germany, he's running a middle-sized company, and he's producing for the first time a report on his CO2 emissions, and a very short sustainability report online. Nice pictures, very nice storytelling, and he's getting people that come from Frankfurt or Zurich, and they're willing to come to the Schwäbische Alb, which is a very provincial area in the south of Germany, and he is asking them in the job interview, why did you apply with us? Why don't you go to Porsche or Daimler or another company? And young people, right? These are young people, and they say, well, I read your sustainability report, and I really want to help you with those CO2 emissions. No kidding. So it works. It works for your company, right? HR satisfaction, believe it or not, but your employees will read the sustainability report, right? Especially the part about the gender pay gap. Industry leadership, right? Who's the leader in an industry? Is it the one who has the biggest revenue, or is it the one with the best technology in terms of sustainability? I don't know, you tell me, but I think it's worth thinking about it, right? Prepare for change. Bob Dylan, there's nothing so stable as change. I think he was right. So don't sit there and wait like a lame duck, but move and get involved with the thing that's ahead. And then obviously, I made a gap between this, right? Because, I mean, the least you should do is fulfill the regulatory requirements. That's like the least thing you have to do, right? And I think if I'm not mistaken, we went like 360 degrees, Fabian. If you zoom out of there, I think we pretty much captured the whole pictures. On the right-hand side was the why, and then was the what. And here's how we can do it. And this is like the best practice approach I can give you right now. So yeah, that would be my presentation. Thank you.
No, Fabian, please stay there. And Christoph, please bear with me, okay, because I want to jump into your presentation as well.
Sure.
You and I, many of you as an issuer, as a service provider, regarding the topic of ESEF, we've had many conversations about the topic of ESEF. Many, plenty. Yes. Nobody wanted to. Nobody wanted. Everybody has been annoyed from the topic ESEF. It's something you didn't hire someone to fulfill ESEF requirements. You let it be the IR department, you let it be handled by the accounting department. Fabian, please go back to Christoph's presentation, please. For a second, just for a second. And we've also having conversations right now regarding the topic of ESG.
Yes.
The conversation is different. People pick up the phone, they want to talk to you about ESG. Yeah. The reason, from my perspective, and judge for yourself, the reason is money. It's always the money. The shareholders, the investment participants, it's the money trail. people like to talk about ESG because they know that there will be no investments or more investments in the future if you are sustainable.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there is a link. There's a link to when you talk about money. As a reporting entity, people are getting more and more concerned with ratings, right? And what we see right now, and ESMA is very concerned about that right now, there are rating agencies, no names here, they collecting data automatically without notifying no one, right? And then they producing some sort of report and they're selling this report and they including the data they collected automatically, right? And the reporting entities, sometimes they're very unhappy with this because they would like to have the opportunity to comment on the data that has been collected silently, right? Now they're getting a poor rating, they're getting downgraded, and that's a problem for that in terms of their creditworthiness.
Money, the money trail.
There you have it, there you have it.
And what I wanted to go to with it is there's been a lot of details. You really did a 360 on the topic of ESG, and I really liked the presentation. Please, Fabian, scale out. I want to see the whole presentation. So many information. The main thing is, no matter how you do it, if you just fulfill the requirements, if you are really into the philosophy of being sustainable, to not be living on Mars in a couple of years because we destroy our place of Earth, there's no shortcuts. You said it. It was one sentence. You said it. It was no shortcuts. You have to prepare. And you can either fulfill the requirements or you really change your philosophy. Come by train. Don't fly as much. Make a Teams meeting. Make a Skype meeting. Do it digital. It's basically the most important thing for me right now in the conversations I am having right now is that there are no shortcuts. You have to read into it. You have to hire one. You have to hire people in your company.
And I mean, maybe to put it in a little less dramatic words, there's a little bit time left to prepare for these regulatory requirements, right? And so I'm not saying please jump out the window because the past has been a nightmare. That wouldn't be fair. That wouldn't be fair. I mean, if I look at Germany, we've been highly successful with the way we've been driving our business, highly successful. And I'm glad to be in Europe and Germany. That's really nice. But there's an end to this story, right? And now we have to adjust the way we drive our business. We have to adjust the way we drive our business. And sustainability comes into play about that, right? So what I'm suggesting is get involved with the sustainability community, inform yourself, right? Have a workshop on the CSRD if you already know that it's going to apply. Bring your senior leaders together and ask them, what's material for us? It's such a simple question. If you can't even answer that, you're starting from zero. That's not a bad thing, but you better start moving now. Better sooner than later. And that's really my message. I don't want to dramatize. I don't want to dramatize. I'm just saying, here's the message, and please open the eyes.
Yeah. So, as you showed us in a very, very cool way, the framework of ESG, we will jump into a PDF presentation because, yes, we have the framework, we know what's coming, but we also want to tell you today that we have the solution in case of how to use a software, how to report sustainable. As I said in the beginning, the notes tagging of ESEF will be the same as the tagging of your sustainability reports. And we've built a service. We are currently ongoing to create a service. It will be a software, as we have the ESEF manager, it will also be a software. And but we have more than that. We have different services around it. And what services do we as Bundesanzeiger and Fabian and I as in-person offer is obviously a software solution. So we have a bolt-on solution, we have standalone and in-house solutions to tag yourself, just like Marco just presented us with using the ESEF manager, so you can do it yourself. You can use a consultant to be helped to read the taxonomy right, to do everything you have to do and forget nothing. Obviously, we will help convert to the official format of the disclosure. It probably will be XHTML and IXBRL elements into it, so it's the same technology as it is ESEF. And we also want to offer a full service solution. So what you gain if you want to be prepared with us and work in workshops with us to build up the knowledge, as I was telling in our ESEF part, we gain knowledge from users, from customers, and we offer also a full service solution. So if you don't prepare in time, or if you don't want to build up the knowledge, which is totally fine, we can't decide for anybody in how to do things, but we also give you the possibility to tag everything, to digitalize, to transfer into XHTML, and then to be able to disclose and fulfill the requirements you are obliged to fulfill. So, next slide. Software process, what does it look like? You collect your data, CO2, for example, emissions, and all the data that is needed. And we will be able to tag it for you, to convert it for you. We will also be in contact with your auditor because there's a possibility that the auditor has to validate these reports, meaning especially in taxonomy, from a taxonomy point of view. Obviously, the Bundesanzeiger is the German entity of disclosure management. There are different variations in Europe, but you also will be able to, what you need if you want to work with us, cooperate with us regarding ESG is collect the data, try to collect them today or tomorrow at 8 a.m., and then we'll be able to convert for you and fulfill the requirements. Again, you saw this slide today once. You will see it once more from the next topic. But if you have questions regarding implementation of a software, regarding basic knowledge about ESG, please feel free to contact us. And we are very glad to be able to be in the position because ESG is really a very, very important topic for everybody. I don't know. Jump immediately. Okay, so we will jump immediately to the next topic. Christoph Kocher, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. It was a great presentation. Thanks for joining us today. We are very happy to have you as a partner.